アフリカ南東部に位置し、アフリカ大陸を南北に縦断する巨大な谷と広大な湖、マラウィー湖によって隔てられた農業国、マラウィー。アフリカの温かい心と呼ばれるマラウィーの文化に触れる旅へ一緒に出かけてみましょう。
Good morning. My name is Alik Katenga Muntali, but also known as Masha-san. I'll be making this presentation at the 33rd Kitakyushu Forum for Asian Women, and we'll be looking at the challenges in meeting Sustainable Development Goal Target number 5.3 and 5.2. I'll be making this presentation with my colleague, Joseph Kalelo, as we'll be getting through the theme, Let Us Travel the World with Feminists. Next slide. So the outline of the presentation will cover the country overview, just to give you a snapshot of the country, the background, the achievements made in these two targets, as well as the challenges we are encountering. Next slide. So a bit of overview. The country Malawi is located in the southern eastern Africa. Our country is also known as the warm heart of Africa because the people are friendly. Next slide. The country, we also have got a very higher problem of child marriages. It's the highest rate in the Eastern and Southern African region, and it's pegged at 42%.
So I'm going to talk about the progress that we have made as a country in implementing Sustainable Development Goal number 5 on promoting gender equality. So first of all, I want to say that as a country, we have made some significant progress in implementing Sustainable Development Goal number 5 on gender equality, which also includes issues of gender-based violence, harmful practices, and other issues that underlie gender equality. First of all, is to say that for the past few years as a country, we have made very good progress in developing legal and policy frameworks for gender equality and elimination of gender-based violence and violence against women and girls, including child marriages. So, for example, the picture that you can see there is for girls who are showcasing Malawi, one of the international conventions that Malawi has ratified. So this is not the only one. We have ratified the CEDAW, we have the Gender Equality Act, we have most of the gender-related frameworks we have implemented as a country. So over the past few years, we have seen as a country making a lot of progress in implementing gender equality. So we can go to the next slide. Secondly, also, another achievement that we have seen over the past few years is the increased representation of women in decision-making institutions. So also, what we have seen over the past few years as well is the increased advocacy on gender equality and as well as the gender-based violence and violence against women. So the picture that you are seeing there is for the First Lady of Malawi, who was the guest of honor at the 2021 16 Days of Activism commemoration. So this is just one of the many campaigns that we are running as a country to ensure that we trigger change at country level in order to promote gender equality and as well deal with issues of gender-based violence and harmful practices. Next slide. Okay, so on page 9, I'll say one we have also done well as a country in implementing Sustainable Development Goal number 5 is putting in place programs and interventions for promoting gender equality. So what currently, like as a country, we have put in place some initiatives, for example, the Spotlight Initiative on ending violence against women and girls, which is also focusing on promoting gender equality. Now, this program, for example, specifically addresses the challenges that women and girls face in Malawi by removing harmful practices, social norms, and other prevailing conditions that prevent women from taking part in promoting gender equality. Yes. Now, another achievement that we have made as a country over the past few years is strengthening the national and the local level gender machineries or systems for gender equality. So it is for all the staff that are part of the national gender machinery for the Ministry of Gender that are promoting gender equality in Malawi. They meet together, they come together to discuss how best we can promote gender equality. So, and some of these staff, including myself and Masha-san and our 2 colleagues, also have benefited from programs like JICA training, where we come, you train us as a way of building the capacity of the national gender machinery. Thank you. And next slide. Yeah.
Having reflected the progress that has been made, but we as a country are still faced with a lot of challenges. The first challenge is that there are a lot of incidences of violence and abuse happening in Malawi, but we have got low levels of reporting. This comes in because most of the incidences occur between close related partners or relatives. So it becomes very difficult for them to report the perpetrator to police, knowing that the consequences would be maybe the arresting of these particular individuals. The other challenge is that much as we have put in places to provide redress to these particular victims and survivors of abuse, these systems are still inadequate. We have got the one-stop centers, the community victim support units. Some of these structures, like the one-stop centers, do not cut across all districts. They are in some, while the community victim support units were capacitated in some time in 2010, and currently some of them are quite dormant. Further to this, we also have got poor enforcement. As an achievement, we have actually enacted a number of laws, but when it comes to enforcement, we still have got gaps in enforcing these particular laws, maybe because of resources, as well as some of the institutions like courts found maybe in distant places from the survivors that are in the communities. We can go to the next slide, please. Continuing with the challenges, when issues of child marriages and unplanned pregnancies, child pregnancies, there is still limited access to sexual and sexual reproductive health services. This is because some communities look at the issues of sexual reproductive health as a taboo. If a child would access these particular sexual reproductive health rights, it implies that maybe the child is kind of promiscuous. But these are arenas where these children can get reliable information for them to shape their decisions. And forced with peer pressure, some of these children indulge in sexual activities that lead them to pregnancies, gender-related activities, because gender activities are termed as female or female-related activities. So if a particular individual in a community is promoting gender issues, they look at him negatively. So there's that particular limited involvement, although currently we are still promoting the issue of male champions. So it's still an area which we still have to add in efforts so that we achieve better results. The other issue is that there's limited or inadequate women's economic empowerment. Much as we do promote the issues of women economic empowerment, there are still gaps. And these gaps have also contributed to the perpetuation of gender-based violence, because a woman who is not empowered cannot make that particular decision and is dependent on a particular man, for livelihood. And last year, we also have challenges in implementing target 5.2 because of the disasters. We had Cyclone Anna that disrupted livelihoods of people and exposed these particular women as well as girls to issues of abuse, including the COVID-19, which also escalated the issues of school dropout, child marriages, and child pregnancies.
So I'll finish by looking at the challenges in implementing target 5.3 on harmful practices. So number one of the greatest challenges that we face is the limited investment in programs to end harmful practices, including such issues as child marriages. What we have at the moment is that the programs for implementing gender equality are not prioritized, and sometimes they are short-lived as compared to other programs that are implemented at national level. The other challenge is inadequate coordination among stakeholders. What we see is that sometimes the little resources that come in for gender equality programs in Malawi, they are also shared amongst stakeholders, and sometimes we do not, most of the stakeholders do not work together to make sure that whatever little resources that we have, we use them to make sure that we are reaching out to more people, to more communities. But sometimes you find out that the different organizations are working in the same community, thereby duplicating the efforts. And the third challenge is strong and harmful traditional, social and cultural practices, which counter efforts to eliminate harmful practices. What we have in Malawi is that at the same time that we are trying to do to address harmful practices, but we know there are also very deep-rooted traditional practices which are still happening, and these sometimes they challenge our efforts to end harmful practices. For example, you find communities marrying off girls at a tender age. You find communities raping or abusing women. Some of these things are embedded in tradition. But also the fourth challenge that we have in implementing target 5.3 is poverty, which remains a major push factor for child marriage and harmful practices. So poverty, in Malawi, most of the people are poor. They cannot find money. And this becomes a good recipe for people to involve themselves in harmful practices like selling off their children or in other bad practices that do not promote gender equality. And there is limited enforcement of legal frameworks. As I said, we have very good laws and policies that we have at country level, but sometimes to implement these policies becomes a challenge. If we had the resources to implement the policies at the ground and to enforce them, I'm sure that some of the negative and harmful practices, we could have dealt with them, but it becomes a challenge. Last but not least is the competing government priorities. Our countries are not very rich countries. We have limited resources, and when the resources come, we have to look at, for example, there is a health, education. There are a lot of priorities that are so important for almost everyone at country level. So to prioritize, sometimes efforts to address harmful practices are not considered as important. Our decision makers would look at, for example, building a hospital, building a school, and building roads as more important because they reach out to more communities. But sometimes when it comes to issues of gender, which are more like software in nature, they are not considered as important. So they are not given so much of a priority. And the last challenge is the unforeseen global and localized emergencies like COVID-19, the wars that is currently ongoing, and other natural disasters. These also affects our initiatives to promote gender equality. For example, with COVID, it has been said every now and again that the gains that we made in promoting gender equality, that in implementing the target on harmful practices. Thank you very much for listening to this presentation and for your attention.